Well, I don't know what I was worried about. I said, Zach, what if they don't hit the like button? What if they don't want you to be driven mad trying to animate 5 combining sequences? But wow, I apparently set the bar way too low because you all delivered. Thank you. So, as promised, here are my top 5 combiner teams from Transformers Combiner Wars. Now, a couple of disclaimers. First off, I don't have, nor did I ever intend to get, the Titan-class Devastator set, so he's not on this list. I didn't like that he wasn't in scale with the other combiners, and the individual bots were lacking. Second, I chose to exclude Abominus from the selection process, simply because he was released under the Power of the Primes line. I do like those guys though, so I may cover them someday in the future. Thirdly, my criteria was based on the team as a whole, so even if I'm not a huge fan of one member, it's the group that matters, and really, I was just having fun with this list. Finally, just because a team isn't on this list doesn't necessarily mean I didn't like them. It just means they weren't in my top 5, or it means I don't own them. That being said, let's get to it. Kicking off this list with some futuristic style is the Technobots. I loved these guys as a kid, and I was very excited for a modern version of them when the Combiner Wars hit. The problem with this set was the difficulty in choosing which version to get. On the one hand, you had the Unite Warriors version from Takara, with arguably better molds and more accurate changes. But on the other, the Combiner Wars set had new, better hands and feet, as well as Scrounge. Whichever way you went, this is a fun team to have in your collection. Scattershot is an excellent reuse of the Silverbolt mold, and as much as I dug his blocky G1 design, I absolutely love his sleek new look in vehicle mode. I do miss his little wrist blaster that the original had though. The rest of the team ranges from okay to great, with Lightspeed being my least favorite of the bunch, having the least amount of imagination put into his retooling and color scheme. Followed by Nosecone, who honestly looks good in my opinion, but does suffer from the limitations of the Brawl mold. I like his look, he just has some hindrance in the arms and that weird waist joint. On the more positive end, we have a fantastic retool for Strafe. He looks great with his beefy orange cannons and partners up with Scrounge himself. But, of course, you all know from the top 10 list that my favorite is going to be Afterburner. I loved this guy as a kid, and he translates to an even cooler, sleeker version now, and looks incredible rocking that trans neon green windshield. When their processors align, the Technobots merge to form Computron, one of my favorite combiners as a kid, because on paper, he actually works. On the show, well, they didn't explore it that much, but the idea and the look work enough for me. Now, it is a little disappointing that we didn't get a more accurate head sculpt, but I think the color swaps do a good job at letting you know who this is. The Protectobots are an oddity of the combiner teams. In the show, they just appear, but that's kind of how it worked back then when you were basically writing a very long toy commercial. They're also odd because their real-world proportions didn't quite make sense. But again, cartoon toy commercials. I like these guys though. Streetwise being my least favorite, but I think it's really due to I'm not a fan of the car mold they kept using. It doesn't hold together all that well, but the others are fun. Blades looks great as the helicopter mold is pretty darn solid, though for a rescue chopper, we'll just pretend those are water missiles. First Aid is darn cool with that fantastic head sculpt and his new truck mode. And of course, the new member, Rook, just fits right in as arguably the most successful of the new recruits on these teams. Then we have their leader, Hotspot. I have always liked Hotspot. My inner child just constantly screams, "Fire trucks are cool!" And he stood out to me because he wasn't a traditional red color. Hotspot on his own is a pretty solid figure, though I find his plastic to be a bit thin in some places, which is an unfortunate trend of the time. Last, but certainly not least, Groove is an interesting member of the team. No longer a limb, though you could get him as a limb later on, this new version is more in scale with the team, and honestly, I like it. He's a fun little figure, with a fantastic paint job, and he integrates well in the combined form. But when people need saving, the Protectobots could merge to form Defensor. Defensor has such an awesome look. He's bulky and armored looking. He's the tank of the Autobot combiners. And rightly so, as he's there to protect others. Hotspot forms the torso of the group, and this design is arguably the second best of the Combiner Wars torsos, next to Silverbolt's design. I do have trouble with the thighs staying locked in, but once you have him all together, he just looks fantastic. The Combaticons. I'll come out and say it right now. I wish I hadn't bought these guys and just waited for my beloved G2 version. But that was the magic of the Combiner Wars. While I went years drifting away from the hobby, this line drew me back in almost instantaneously, and I didn't know we were going to get a G2 version. So naturally, I snatched up every one of these guys on sight. The elephant in the room for this set is naturally Blastoff, now in a arguably closer to scale, but still not, jet mode, instead of his traditional space shuttle. Now, a space shuttle version was released later, but I didn't bother with it. The rest of the team, though, absolutely nail it. Vortex you know I love already. Swindle has hit the gym a bit, and just looks great. And Brawl? Well, Brawl gets a lot of criticism because it's not the greatest design functionally, but as far as the look, I feel it's still a good figure. Let's be honest, I display them combined, so that's probably why I don't care as much about his issues. Then there's the leader, Onslaught. He looks familiar, doesn't he? That's because he and Hotspot are basically the same toy, but with a little cleverness, they made the vehicle modes different enough to work. Shockwave was billed as part of the team as well, and I love this mold. He just works as a fun-size, Action Master-esque Shockwave. The Combaticons combine into Bruticus. This is such a fun combiner. Bulky, powerful, built to take punishment and dish it right back out. It still amazes me how even though there are a lot of shared molds and designs in this line, how different each combiner looks from each other. And Bruticus just looks incredible. The big surprise release of the Combiner Wars. Platinum Edition Leo Kaiser. Now, this is not the most accurate recreation of the character. It's missing 2 members and has one that doesn't belong. But this is the kind of release that would normally be reserved as a niche deep-cut convention exclusive. So the fact that we got an obscure Japanese-only character like this, the way we did, when we did, was incredible, and a huge step forwards towards what we'd get in the coming years. This set, despite its inaccuracies, has a lot of love put into it. I've already gushed over the awesomeness that are Skyhawk and Hellbat, as they are truly the stars of the set as individuals. But it shouldn't go unsaid that Killbison and Drillhorn also look amazing. Yes, they too use the Brawl mode, but that doesn't stop them from looking incredible, rocking new head sculpts and sporting gorgeous color schemes of blue and gold respectively, with some fantastic silver highlights. The weird choice of this set is what's missing from it. I can understand the omission of Jaruger, given the aesthetic of the line and what it would have cost to turn this into a 6-member team. That one I'm fine with. But it seems weird that Leozak also got the boot from the group, which is a shame because, well, I would have loved to have a toy named Leozak, but what we got instead was a weird amalgamation of a torso. It's got the name Deathsaurus, or Deathzaurus, or whatever they chose to spell it this time, the colors of Leozak, and the robot mode of Skylynx. It's strange, it's wacky, and while I do mourn the loss of Leozak, I don't hate this. Because again, I think they did something incredible with what was available to them. And while it's a little strange when they are separated, when they combine, it all works out. Leo Kaiser looks fantastic. The Skylynx torso works a treat for this release, and the changes they made to the combiner head are perfect. This is one of my favorite pieces in my collection. Now, would I love a new, modern, more accurate Leo Kaiser? Of course! But for what this is, and when it was released, I am happy with it. Who could possibly be number 1? Yeah, it's G2 Superion. The aerial bots are easily the best molds of this line. They just work, and I absolutely love their G2 colors. Fireflight, being the least interesting of the group, still looks great though, while Skydive and Air Raid absolutely crush it in the silver and blue. This set sees the return of Toasthead himself, Slingshot, or Quickslinger, whatever they named him. The original G2 Slingshot was the poster board for Gold Plastic Syndrome back in the day, so I'm happy to report that so far, this new incarnation is keeping together. And they all fall under the leadership of the Clown Prince of Flying, Silverbolt. Silverbolt is the goat of the Combiner Wars torsos. He just works really well. Yeah, his alt mode is a jet with a ton of robot parts slapped on the bottom, but I honestly don't care. He's a fun toy, easy to transform, and just a solid combiner piece. Oh, and included in this set is an honorary aerial bot, Powerglide, rocking for the first time his own set of G2 colors. Honestly, I like this figure a lot. Not just for the cool silver and red color scheme, but it's also a pretty fun figure and a great design for Powerglide. Superion is my favorite of the Combiner Wars teams. The way the head is revealed and the chest closes up, he honestly never looked better. The whole set works in a beautifully balanced way, and with a few third-party enhancements to the hands and feet, I have, for me, the perfect G2 Superion. So there you have my top 5 Combiner teams from the Combiner Wars line. Who's your favorite Combiner team? Let me know in the comments below. I hope you all enjoyed this video. I can't stress enough how much it's meant to me for the support you have all shown. I told myself when I started, I would do this for me. I would tell my stories, and I would do it till I stopped being fun. But a year in, I honestly didn't expect things to grow like they have, and I'm still having a blast making these videos. So thanks for watching, thanks for liking, definitely thanks for subscribing, and I'll see you next time.